Okay, so if you needed some help with the cosine graph, let's go ahead and talk about each of these different characteristics. So you can start with the amplitude, and really you just have to look at what's the highest point and where's the lowest point. So the difference between that is 2. So half of that will be your amplitude. So our amplitude's just going to be 1. And it'll be a little bit easier to see when we draw in the midline. The period of the function, I ask you to start by putting a green dot at the start of one period. And then I'm just going to trace through that period, and we'll see, we get down to the lowest point, and we've got to get back up to where we started. So now I asked you then to put a red dot at the end of a period. So the length of that, so we go from here to here, that length is 2 pi. So that is the length of one period. And then finally our midline, well, that is just the middle line of the graph. And like I said a moment ago, it might be easier to see where our amplitude comes into play if we look at our midline first. But this is our midline, okay? And the equation of that is the line y equals 0. Finally, x-intercept, let's just identify maybe 2 or 3 of them here for a moment. So an x-intercept that we can easily identify is 0 pi over 2. I'm sorry, pi over 2, 0. We have 3 pi over 2, 0. And what I want you to notice is how far apart these are. Okay, so these are pi units apart. So that's going to help us write kind of a generic x-intercept. So what we'll say is that any x-intercept, starting with pi over 2 and adding pi, comma 0, will be an x-intercept. Now, we have to sort of, let me write that a little bit differently. Starting at pi over 2 and adding or subtracting pi will give us an x-intercept. But what we have to account for is that would only give us 1 or maybe 2. What we have to do is say that any integer in here, so a lot of times you'll see either the integer k or you'll see the integer n. And what we're saying is that if you multiply pi by any number and then add that to pi over 2, you're going to find a or an x-intercept. And then finally, our y-intercept, we're going to look at this up here, the point 0, 1.